Pim, awesome to connect with you today. Excited to have this conversation with you. Do you mind just starting off telling us a little bit more about your role at Remote and what brought you over to the team? It looks like it's been about 2 years, right?
That's right. That's right, Brad. Thanks for asking. Yes, so I'm at Remote as GM for Remote Embedded and VP for Technology Partners. That means that I'm responsible for our technology partnerships, and that mainly includes our Remote Embedded offering, which is the our offering where we allow selected technology partners to embed the power of Remote into their own platform to make remote global payroll, remote employer of record, remote contractor management available to their own customers. You already mentioned I've been with Remote for 2 years now. I started at Remote in when I was still based in Singapore. I've been based in Asia for 13 years of my career, and started there and then relocated back to the Netherlands where I grew up about a year ago. And yeah, that's one of the benefits of working for a remote business is that you can it's easier to meet your relocation needs.
Yeah, well, welcome back home, and it's really exciting to hear. So, when you look at what drew you to Remote, I know one of the big differentiators for Remote in the market historically has been the way that they've gone about building out the infrastructure for the EOR and global payroll solutions, and being really intentional from the beginning about kind of owning the entire rails rather than doing a lot of partnering and aggregation. So, I'm curious to learn a little bit more from you, just like technically the things about Remote that one drew you in, but also have like really made you excited about the product you guys sell?
Yeah, I think that's a two-part question. I'll first start talk with what me drew me into to remote, and then I'll talk a bit more about technical foundations. The what drew me into Remote, I got to know Remote as a customer of Remote at my previous company. I was running a global team, managing partnerships, and I was hiring people all over the world to manage these partnerships. But at some point, I was trying to hire somebody to manage my Italian partners, and then of course it's better to have an Italian speaker. So I was in contact with this great guy, great Italian guy. It was based in Milano. And I basically made him an offer. I said, like, I want you to join the team, but you have to relocate to Amsterdam because that's where our regional HQ was. But you should also expect to be back in the plane 2 weeks out of 4, be back in Italy to manage the partners. And he was like, can't we just do that the other way around? And of course, it made so much more sense. But the reason why we couldn't is because we didn't have an office, we didn't have a legal entity, we didn't have a bank accounts, we didn't have the expertise to hire in Italy. And then I found out about Remote, and to me, it was an eye opener that by hiring through Remote, expanding internationally becomes just so easy that you don't need to set up all this infrastructure, and it removes you of constraints that you didn't even know you had as a business leader building up your team. And then it reminded me of all the weird sort of hiring choices I've made in hindsight. I'm like, why did I think it was important to hire this person in Singapore when I could have hired somebody in Vietnam for a third of the money? That was like a real eye opener, and for me, and that's how I first got to know about Remote. Now, one of the things that really I've really surprised me in a positive sense when I joined Remote 2 years ago is the quality of the technology, the quality of our product, the quality of the engineering. You can see that there's no. It's a testament to our founders. They're a product guy and an engineer, who have decided not to cut any corners and to build the product in house from the get go, from the start. And Yeah, and that shows, and that also relates to the infrastructure, what you mentioned. Like other EOR providers who start off as an aggregator model, right? Like we subcontracting. Our founders Job and Marcelo made the deliberate choice when they started the company in back in 2019, before the whole remote boom started, that they wanted to control the customer experience. And you can only do that when you own your own infrastructure, when you have your own legal entities, that you're not dependent upon third parties who may impact the customer experience in a negative way or have different incentives when it comes to compliance. And yeah, that it shows. And yeah, other EOR providers say, well, we cover 150, 180 countries, but In reality, they just have a Rolodex of 150, 180 names in there, we take a subcontract to. With remote, we have 100 countries that we cover, but we actually own our own infrastructure in these countries. We have our own legal entities, our own compliance capabilities. We have our own HR and payroll expertise, and that's really what you need to build a real quality experience.
Absolutely. And when you have been successful in getting to scale while also owning kind of the end-to-end experience, as you start to move out of just the direct sales and start moving into some of the embedded opportunities, as you're having conversations with partners in the HRIS space or other embedded partners that you're talking to, what are some of the things that that infrastructure unlocks or makes available that differentiate you guys as an embedded option?
Yeah, I think embedded for an embedded offering that we bring. It's basically three things, right? It's our technology, it's our infrastructure, and it's our expertise that we bring to our partners. Because what partners are seeing, and I talk to a lot of HRIS companies, payroll companies, as on the day to day basis in my day job. Um, they're seeing all the same things, and that's that HR plus payroll is becoming one. Customers increasingly want HR and payroll in the same system, and not just local domestic payroll. They also want international hiring into that system. The a global payroll, global hiring, it's here to stay. It's if you look at the remote global workforce report, we're seeing that 73% of the respondents say that they expect more than half of their hiring to come outside of their home country in the next year. So this is growing, and it's entering the next phase. And customers want a more seamless experience that is integrated and embedded into their own platform. Now, you can, as an HR tech company, you can respond to that in different ways. You can option number zero is ignore it, and I think you can do that at your own peril, because the market expectations are increasing. Customers are expecting global hiring to be embedded in their platform. So that is the path towards irrelevance. And then you have the options of buy, build, or embed. And what I'm seeing, the buy is of course expensive. Build, it takes very long, and it's also very expensive to do that. And we believe that with embed we can actually provide we can accelerate with remote embedded. We can accelerate HR partners to market, and you can be live in weeks and not years. And owning the own infrastructure, what you mentioned, is very important for that. To that, by owning our own infrastructure, we have control over the customer experience. We have control over the compliance, and we can also ensure that the technology stack is consistent across all the countries. And it's HR tech companies that value these things even more than customers. When you're selling to when you're selling to your services to customers, customers are not experts in the HR tech space. But if you're selling this to embedded partners, they are experts. They have their own engineers. They have their own compliance capabilities. They can run their own due diligence. They know when you're bluffing and when you're not. And that's I think I love it because I think it's a great challenge. But having your own infrastructure really stands out in that respect.
That's amazing. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we do a lot of advising with buyers about what to look for when they're buying these solutions, and we can educate them on why they should look at wholly owned rather than aggregation. But a lot of times they get into the demo, they see the shiny object, and they just kind of go with, the prettier demo or the lower price. But I think you're absolutely right that the tech vendors, the HRS partners, the payroll partners, they're looking at this much more deeply. They're getting engineers to really take apart the tech stack. So it makes perfect sense that if you have the right product, you're gonna have even more success in a situation like that when the bar is higher. And so I'd love to learn a little bit more. I think for me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, the first kind of flagship, well-known embedded partner that I saw was the Bamboo announcement. Again, there might be others that I missed, but that's one that's really familiar for our audience. So I'd love to just maybe go a little bit deeper into like that partnership, what went into it, what some of the earlier results have been, and what you guys are seeing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, there were the first partnership that we announced 2 years ago was with Gusto, and I think that one was that was the first big one we've had with Personio in early this year, in especially in the European market. But yeah, Bamboo launched this year, and I think that has been an extremely successful partnership. And I think it was going particularly well in the partnership with Bamboo HR is that Bamboo HR has created a product that they can sell as their own. And that is a key success driver for any embedded partnership. You need to have a product you can sell as your own. So that means that two things. One, the product needs to feel like a product that is your own, so that the customer experience is seamless enough, the onboarding, that you can manage all the day-to-day activities in the same UI UX. And secondly, that you bring this to market as your own product. And Bamboo HR has done that. Like they call it Bamboo HR EOR powered by remote, but it's Bamboo HR EOR first and foremost. They have their own sales team, their own go-to-market team that markets and sells this product. So for the customer, the experience is really I'm buying a Bamboo HR product, and it's a product where Bamboo HR stands behind and puts their name on, and that instills confidence. And that is a completely different go-to-market motion from, say, traditional type of partnerships where, oh, we've got an integration, we have a referral, I can pass you a lead. That just doesn't cut it anymore.
Yeah. So, and I think this is kind of draws us into one of the conversations we had on LinkedIn, which is, I've been monitoring embedded payroll across a number of different stories in the industry. And a couple of the examples I've seen, and this has been mostly with domestic US payroll embedded into other systems. I think that the experience that I see and I hear from customers is that there isn't the technical problem that they're experiencing. Like, yes, the payroll engine is in their HRIS as they were promised. It's more of a service experience that they're having where, they're working with an HRIS partner who just recently turned on embedded payroll with a third party. And the functionality is there, but when the rubber meets the road in implementation, and there's questions about how do I set up the right tax codes and the right deductions, or after go live when, hey, there was an error and I need some answers. The experience that I've heard in these other situations is there's a lot of swivel chairing going on, right? Like I get the complaint from the customer. I need to go ask the embedded partner for the answer. There's a lag time. We come back to them and it doesn't feel as direct, responsive, or as knowledgeable. Um, talk me through that scenario where there might be some misconceptions or how you guys are doing it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on. The service component is complicated, and it is complicated from when you think about U.S. domestic payroll, but it's even more complicated when you think about global hiring, whether that's through EOR, global payroll, or contractor management. Because the you as a if you are building an embedded payroll solution, you either need to eliminate that swivel chairing. You have two options: either you build in-house expertise so that you can address your customers' questions directly without going back to your embedded partner. Or the second option is you let your embedded partner run it. Now, when you're doing US domestic, you basically have these two options. When you're doing global hiring in 100 plus countries, option one is not realistic. So, you need to go with option two. And that is the model that we've seen work very well. So we don't hide our partners do not hide the fact that remote is there behind the scenes, but also in front of the scenes, right? If they have specific questions, somebody from remote will actually get on the call with them, talk them through it, and address their questions. Especially when you get into more sensitive HR topics along the way, which you inevitably will. And also the flip side of that is customers are actually very happy with that. They want the embedded experience to be in the product and in the sales process and in the onboarding process. But when it comes to sort of the edge cases in the service or the more complicated things, they're very happy to talk to an expert, which is not there yet. Now, and that's the model that we've developed and that we've rolled out with all our successful embedded partners. Longer term, there is the prospect of artificial intelligence actually making this even more seamless, where customer support and service is going to be taken over by AI over time, which eliminates the need for this model. But we're not there yet, so we believe it's still important to keep the human in the loop, especially on sensitive HR matters.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, and I love that again, let's not hide it, let's just get you to the expert as quickly as possible. I think that's gonna be the best solution for kind of avoiding the swivel chair that you talked about. And, one of the questions that I have is, as you guys are building out this embedded business, but there's also a very robust direct business, you talked earlier about how if you don't have global payroll and an HRIS, you're missing the boat, right? You're getting left behind. And in some ways, I think the reverse is true, right? If you're a global payroll but you don't have some HR modules, then people look at you as a point solution and not a platform. And so I know on the direct side, you guys have invested in building out more HR modules, kind of widen the scope a little bit of the tools. Um, does that come into conflict with the embedded partners that you guys have, where they have their own HRIS and they look at that as like stepping on their territory at all?
Yeah, no, it's a very valid question. I think there's two elements to this. One is how we look at our own product strategy, right? Like, so what we really want to do really well is global compliance. So global payroll, EOR, contractor management, PEO, and other sort of compliance related topics. That we really want to nail this, and this is our core. Now, and when it comes to compliance, there's also not a lot of degrees of freedom, right? Like you just need to follow the rules, and there's not like, and there's not many ways of doing this. When it comes to the broader set of HRIS tooling, when it comes to things like performance management or surveys or workflows or processes, there's much more degrees of freedom. And there our vision is that we want to provide a platform that can do everything, but it's not going to do everything for everybody. That's not our vision. Yeah, that's how we're going to do that. The second theme here is the market is really big. The market is for global HRIS, HCM is extremely big, and there are room for a lot of players, especially when you think about players who are focused on specific geographies, specific market segments, specific industries. The more specialized you are, sort of the bigger your competitive moat is going to be. And we have we don't have the illusion that our HRIS will be the solution to be all and end all for everybody. Although we do think that we can build a payroll solution for everybody in the world. And the third thing is, I get this question a lot from partners, like, how does this competitive dynamic work? But the reality is also, real successful tech companies are always partnering and competing at the same time. If you're a really successful tech company, you will have an overlapping feature set with your partners. So there's always a little bit of frenemy dynamics. And we at Remote, we just we manage this transparently. We manage this with integrity. These are also our company values. And we're also not going to pretend that it doesn't exist. But for us, embedded is a core part of our strategy. We've been working on this for almost 4 years now to build this, and been in the market for over two. And we see this as our major engine of growth. So we're committed to this, and we're not going to sort of, we don't see this as a short-term game to make a quick buck.
Yeah, no, I love the point about competition yet partnership. There's Kronos historically is the largest timekeeping system in the US, and obviously they're not UKG, but there was a time where ADP used to say we sell more Kronos than Kronos does. And it's like, yes, that both companies offer similar suites, but there's a lot more value in working together, even though they can compete in certain areas as well. So I think for the last topic, would love to just kind of bring it to the most recent announcement you guys had with Workday. I mean, that was a really massive announcement. Would just love to hear kind of what went into that announcement, what's going to be rolling out, and what some of the things you're most excited about with the Workday partnership.
I think it's the what I'm most excited about with the Workday partnership is Workday is taking the drive of Workday. You know, like the ability to move at such a quick pace, to be so decisive, is not something that you expect from really large companies, large listed companies like Workday. But it is really impressive the pace at which Workday is seeing. You know, everybody's seeing the market opportunity. Everybody's seeing that HR and payroll and global payroll needs to be one. But the speed at which Workday is executing upon that is phenomenal. So you know, Workday has been looking for they're seeing the same trends as everybody's seeing, especially in mid market, medium enterprises they call it, where HR and payroll decisions are made together. And they reached out to us looking for a global payroll partnership. They've done their due diligence. They've looked at all the markets. They of course have a lot of global payroll partnerships already, and they've looked at which is the partner that's most suitable for the medium enterprise segment and who's most aligned with our long term vision for technology and especially for AI. And they've selected remote. Now, of course, we're extremely proud of being selected by Workday. What we're doing there is twofold. One is we have a partnership where Workday is going to resell our global payroll offering under their own name. They're going to sell this as their own product, and Workday Go Global Payroll is going to be called, focused on the medium enterprise segment, and that's going to solve it's going to solve a big pain point for medium enterprises, and I think they're really getting ahead of the market here by doing this.
Yeah, it's so interesting how you describe Workday, the speed at which they move at their size being a little bit surprising. We had almost a one for one example where, what we do on the channel partner side of things, it was something that they were, I think, admittedly a little bit late to, and some of their competitors were ahead of them. But the second that they turned their attention to it, they overshot many of their peers almost immediately because once they kind of put their attention on something, the execution and kind of the standard of excellence there really shines.
The ability to execute, and this is also something I see in Workday, but I've also seen this in Membo HR. The ability to execute is what's really driving a difference here.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think those are the topics we wanted to go through today. I can stop the recording here unless there's any parting words you want us to end with.
Thank you so much, Brad. And I think, I want to thank you for the questions. And I think, you definitely have done your homework and you have a real sharp understanding of what's happening in embedded. I can see that. Thank you for asking the question.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. It's fun to seriously talk to someone very much in the trenches. It's really the most fascinating space in this HR tech landscape to me. And I know we talked about some examples where it hasn't gone quite well, but I keep a lot of excitement and optimism for what you guys are building. And thank you for just coming in and peeling back the curtain a little bit here.
Happy to. I look forward to meeting you in person next time.
Yes.